All right, everybody, welcome back to our second final spot here for the Steve Vai album reviews, which of course will culminate in a ranking video at the end of it. But yeah, we're at the second last spot here. Last time we looked at the second piece in the supposed trio, eventual trio of albums with Real Illusions, Reflections, and then the last time we looked at, Story of Light. And, that's kind of out the window until Steve finally released that third part. But, let's fast forward 5 years from 2012, Story of Light, to 2016, where we take a peek at this thing right here, Modern Primitive. And man, really cool album cover on there. Steve always has some really cool ones. And, see, this album is actually packaged with a special edition of Passion and Warfare as well in the back with some bonus tracks and remastered and such. So, and I think an alternate cover slightly with like a different guitar on there, if I'm not mistaken. That looks like a different guitar than like the original, the vinyl copy I've got. But the reason this is kind of packaged with that is because apparently this album, the reason it's called Modern Primitive is because all of these songs on here were pieces that were unfinished during the time between Flexible and Passion and Warfare. So Steve has said, I was reading up on it a little bit, and then I've got this little like notes package here that it came with, like on each song and such, which, I'll obviously be looking out of because on the back here they've got Passion and Warfare. But yeah, and all of these, it's really cool. He kind of talks about when the song originated and stuff. It's got, him from like the 80s in there, in between that time recording. In between the recordings of Flexible and Passion Warfare. And yes, these are all like pieces that were unfinished in between there. And he has gone back and finished them, added some touches to them, and stuff like that. So that's why it's called Modern Primitive, because it's modern in the way that it's a new release, but, and these are like never before heard songs, but that it's also, it's some of his older work that he's just pulling out of the bag, to finish. That was, so really, really cool. And like Steve said, he was talked about too in an interview about this, and I think even in these liner notes here, where he was saying how this album really serves as the in-between with Passion Warfare and Flexible, because those two albums sound like, they could sound like totally different artists, and they really do. It's a major jump from Flexible and, the Flexible leftover stuff into Passion and Warfare, like I talked about whenever I was reviewing those. It's like huge jump in style and everything. So we get a really cool mixture of stuff on here, and really it does sound exactly like that in between album, because that's what it was. But again, finished up, and you can really hear some of like the. I could kind of tell when like some of it, like maybe a part wasn't unfinished. Maybe I'm wrong, but I thought, at least when like a couple times I was listening, I was like, oh, I see where he maybe went over that, and went in and added a fill or like a cool solo. I don't know. It just sounded more like a modern take on some of the parts in here where he did complete these songs. But with all that being said, guys, let's take a peek here at the first track. Let me open up this little booklet here. Yes, okay. It's called Bop, and rightfully so, because we open it up and it's just got kind of like these like, almost acapella sounding like beep boop bop bop kind of thing going on, really funny, just like the Flexible stuff. Got some comedy up in here with it and kind of goofy sound stuff. But this song just evolves, man. It does have that kind of weird like xylophone-y type stuff going on, and the acapella sounding bops and stuff. But this thing evolves into like almost like a really jazzy and kind of funky track, which is really, really cool. And I almost forgot all about this song before revisiting this album. And so like whenever it popped on, I was like, oh, I remember this, but I didn't quite remember how it ended up like, progressing throughout the song into like this whole just really, really cool like jazzy track. So Bop is a hell of an opener. I really love it. And when we look at the second track on here, Dark Matter, damn, this is a track that you wouldn't, it sounds like something, well, even Steve himself said, like in these notes here, on the booklet here in the album, he said it sounds a lot like the song Gravity Storm off Story of Light. which it really does, in the way how it's kind of like really chaotic and just kind of wild. But man, I would say I even like Dark Matter better because, and you know, it's really cool because this song, it sounds like something that could be on Passion and Warfare more so than Flexible. While, you know, the opening track, Bop, seemed more, leaning more towards that Flexible style. But here with Dark Matter, it's got these really, really cool bends going on that are just like, man, super, super funky to them, you know, and a really cool, like, strumming pattern going on with the riff. And of course, you get a freaking otherworldly solo from Vi in this thing. And I love the music video for that. I remember when that came out years ago, and just, I was like, damn, that's just really, really cool. And at the time, you know, and even the first couple times I've ever heard this or listened to it, you know, or even the first time I did listen to it ever, I didn't know that, like, this was stuff in between. Like, you could really jump completely, you know, go into this blind like I originally did. I didn't know that this was stuff about that till, like, that was, you know, incomplete stuff from in between those albums until this listen on it. So it was really, really interesting. Like, I was like, man. And I remember when I very first had heard this album, the very first time I heard this album, I remember thinking like some aspects of it sounded like Flexible, but I didn't really put two and two together, I guess. But yeah, so Dark Matter definitely leads more towards the Passion Warfare side of things, and is, oh man, damn near, if not one of my favorite tracks off here. Super, super cool instrumental. Then we go on to, get back to my place here. Oh, I love this one too. Mighty Messengers. This kind of seems like a Flexible era, leans more towards that kind of style. It's got the vocals from Steve and kind of like the, you know, a ton of background vocalists, like kind of how Flexible did. It had all these different people all over that album with like different like female vocalists and other dudes on there too singing. Everybody, you know, just a whole group of different musicians on there. And this song, it's got a ton of background vocals, and Steve's got an incredible voice yet again on here. Super, super, super hooky. And it's kind of got a fast-paced kind of groove too with the drums going, and kind of a pump-up song, you know. And I love the chorus, where it's like, I mean, just the melody in that chorus, and really the melodies throughout, even the verses are just hooky. It's just a freaking hook-filled blast. One of my favorite Steve Vai songs. That was always one that stood out to me. Mighty Messengers is just top-tier stuff. Then we go on to track number 4, The Lost Chord. This one's really cool. I guess Steve brought in Devin Townsend to finish this thing up on vocals, because we get some Devin Townsend, of course, who was with, you know, who was in Vi in 1993, all the way back then. And so we get, it was really cool to hear him again. I remember the first time ever hearing this album, I was like, oh my God, is Devin Townsend going to maybe get back with Steve or something? I don't know. But it was just a guest appearance. You know, as we know, his new album didn't feature him, and that's cool. Then, you know, that's okay. But it was really cool to have Devin Townsend come back for some vocals on here in this really, really pretty song, almost kind of ancient sounding. Sounds like a lost chord that's being strummed, and just really, really cool. And even though this is, again, in between the Passion Warfare and Flexible albums, this sounds like it could be something off like Section Religion, which is obviously because of, you know, Devin Townsend, you know, coming in to help Steve finish that track up. But just an awesome song. Love The Lost Chord. And it's really cool to have, you know, be hearing Devin Townsend back. So then we go on to, this is kind of a weird, I'm not really sure, let's see, Upanishads. Upanishads. If that, you know, again, there's sometimes some weird stuff on his albums that you don't really know how to say. But this is another really, really cool one. Steve Ham, like, it goes really, really pretty, and then also out of nowhere, you get Stu Ham, which, you know, he's been on done bass work for Steve like all throughout the years, and he's just such a badass. He pulls out like in the middle of this, you know, really peaceful and pretty song, just this freaking slap bass groove, and it's just, man, like right whenever I heard that, I'm like, there's Stu Ham right there, man. I mean, oh, such a cool song. Upanishads, or however you say it, solid track. And it just, Stu Ham, you know, because he does get to shine a lot, you know, throughout Steve Vai's career on the albums he appears on. It's like, I mean, he's just a hell of a bass player. Very, very underrated. And this track right here is like a big shiny moment from him. And then after you get his kind of like chaotic slapping bass solo, pretty much, you go on, kind of goes back into that peaceful kind of thing. And that's Up and Shot's not really the longest song, but just a really, really cool. And wow, it even says here in the liner notes, sixth finger for impossible chords. Greg Worth. So I guess there was an impossible chord that needed a sixth finger that maybe Steve hadn't pressed down on there. This guy, Greg Worth. So I love just reading stuff like that. Steve always has really interesting stuff in his liner notes and all that. Then we go on to Fast Note People, and man, you get some kind of fast paced stuff up in here. It reminds me in a way, not exactly. I mean, it's kind of a loose comparison here to like the song the Moon and I from Story and I, or from the Story of Light. In the way how it kind of does have like a fast-paced tempo, but also has this kind of like really, really peaceful part to it, and really, really soft part to it, but while the tempo's kind of going fast. But that's kind of as far as like that goes. Those are two completely different songs, but that element from it was really similar here on Fast Note People. And then, of course, it's called Fast Note People. You start hearing some fast stuff going on, some little shredding stuff going on from Steve, and Stu Hams again up in here doing his thing, with that slap bass and those pops he's got going on. Really, really cool stuff. And the drumming starts picking up. So another really, really cool song. Then, let's see. Oh, I love this one here. And We Are One. This one is beautiful. We get, this is like a duet here that is just, man, Steve and this other female vocalist. Let me see if she's here. Nyana, Holly, Mandy, Vehar. I mean, this could be a couple of these people. I'm not really sure. It doesn't say like lead vocalists or anything besides. It just says background vocals for those couple of people here. But it's a really, really, really fun and really, really pretty song that is, it's a beautiful duet. Steve is, shown that he can do those really, really pretty duets before. On these past couple of albums we've been listening, we've heard him do some really, really pretty duets, and this one sounds like, and We Are One is just, them kind of trading off, verses, and then they, culminate in the chorus being together and really harmonizing well together. Steve can, again, I can't stress enough how much of an underrated vocalist I think he is. He can more than handle himself vocally on albums. And I'm glad to have him doing some more vocal work on this album, and especially when he experiments with like harmonizing with like female vocalists, or even off something like the Ultrazone with like that Asian band. I can't remember what they were called. They were big over in Japan, I think, and they ended up being on one of the songs there, and he worked with them vocally. So he's done a lot of really, really cool stuff like that, and that just shows like the extent of his vocal talent. And We Are One is just a really, really beautiful song. Then we go to Never Forever, which is again just a really, really cool one. And let me see here. It looks like it said this was a piece kicking around until the light of day at soundcheck with the Fire Garden Band. It was decorated and completed. So maybe some of this stuff, to my understanding, I thought most of this was from, in between the albums, and maybe he just had that band at the time. Woo! But maybe he just had that lineup there, or I don't know, maybe he just had some other stuff featured on here, and it's just primarily the in-between Flexible and Passion Warfare. But it says right here it's the Fire Garden Band, so maybe this was one from the Fire Garden sessions, but it's another really, really cool song. Got some really pretty lyrics to it, and just a really, really cool vibe to it. I like that one, and We Are One are pretty similar, and just really, really cool, and profound lyrics from Steve that he always seems to whip out. Really enlightened guy. Then we go into this is where it kind of drops a little bit for me here at the end, with Lights Are On. It's a cool little quick deal, nothing too crazy for me. Not a standout track, kind of a filler track here for me, actually. Lights Are On. Just kind of a quick little jammy thing. Does some cool shredding on there. But it's, it's not my favorite thing, or definitely not a standout track on here, Lights Are On. Now, No Pockets, that one is, because damn, this one is just freaking hooky. I forgot all about this song. Super, super hooky. Almost has kind of an anthemic feel to it. Just such and it's weird, like the lyrics, like, I can't find the pocket, can't seem to sync up with logic. I'm caught in the objects. I just can't seem to find that pocket. I mean, weird lyrics, of course, coming from like the flexible kind of, yeah, it says right here, bass drums and rhythm guitars were recorded in 84-ish period, so around flexible sessions, but yeah, it has like those background vocalists and everything being featured kind of from that same flexible era. And just flexible on that album alone had a lot of really, really hooky choruses on the songs with vocals. And here's another one that, could have made that album and just made a freaking blast of a song. Love, love, love No Pockets. Totally forgot about that song and how good that was. So I was really, really surprised from that one here at the end. But now that's not the final track. The final track here is a three-part deal here. Pink and Blows Over. And we start off with like the first part of the track. Really, really cool thing going on here. It's got like a female vocalist kind of singing this really, really soft and melodic thing going on. Then Steve books it in with this shred and stuff going on. Then you start to lose me big time in part 2, which is titled Mars Attack. And it's just like this, I mean, in that one part, part 2, Mars Attack, of this Pink and Blows Over song is, it's like 13 minutes long of just, it's almost like it was just long to be long. It's just like a bunch of like kind of scatting around, tapping a couple notes here on the piano, somebody will hit a cymbal, and just like, and I get, and I'm a fan of like jazz fusion stuff, and all that stuff, and I can really appreciate it, but this is just like, just screwing around, and I'm even a fan of like the more comedic stuff of Steve, but this isn't even that. It's almost just like, I don't know. I just really didn't like this song. I'm sitting here, never did I think, I would be thinking like a 3-part song from Steve would just be like this, because he's had like parts and stuff before, and I was like, man, and I forgot this song. So I, whenever I was here to revisit this one, and I was like, oh man, I almost forgot I had a 3-part song. Cool. Let's see. I can't remember how that one goes. Let's see how that one goes. And I was just so disappointed that by that part 2, cut that whole thing out. Let's make it a 2-part song with just the part 1 and part 3, because part 3 is really cool and does kind of revert back to this kind of jazz fusion-y thing. But that whole song, though, is just a big no for me because that part 2 is in there with just like 13 minutes of like, pretty much, oh, let me hear couple of things on piano here, hit a couple notes, here's someone strums a guitar, someone hits a cymbal, and then Steve's over here like scatting away and kind of making funny noise and stuff. It just 13 minutes of that is crossing the damn line for me. I just did not like that song. That it kind of got on my nerves a little bit, and it kind of the same thing with like the ending, that other side to Flexible Leftovers, which I kind of have shit on a lot. With it just being like the joke thing, but it just went on too long, like too lengthy of joke tracks. But this isn't even a joke track. It's just like not good. I just, and obviously I love Steve's stuff, and I haven't had a lot of big critical things, like a lot of negative feelings or comments towards the majority of his work, which is going to make this really hard to rank. A lot of his albums really hard to rank. But like this song right here, just no. That is a big just no for me. But overall though, I mean, as you see with like the first like 3/4 of this album is just badassery, with really cool stuff. And it is a really cool insight to that, that in-between album that it really is. Because I always kind of thought it was an interesting jump from Flexible to Passion and Warfare. Just sounding like, whoa, he just freaking grew that much? Well, here's, right here, Modern Primitive, you've got some stuff that kind of shows that growth a little bit. But, that was finished works from a lot of that. And apparently some stuff, finished works from Fire Garden. And maybe that Devin Townsend track was, an outtake or something from Sex and Religion that he went and finished up. Because, apparently they were doing, this has got a couple of them from other eras as well. But again, it's primarily in that, in between 84 and 1990 or whatever. But yeah, I do think this is an awesome album. But that ending does give it a really kind of, it leaves a bad taste in your mouth. I hate to, it sucks to end it on such a long, bad song. If it'd be one thing to end it on, like, you know, kind of just a shitty song or whatever, but the fact it was that long, you just kind of had to sit through, it's like, man, you know, and people may be like, oh, well, you could just skip it. Well, I'm an album listener guy, if it isn't clear. You know, I like to listen to it all the way through. I'll even listen through the crappy songs. May be weird or whatever, but that's just kind of how I roll with it. It's a part of the whole album experience or whatever. But yeah, guys, really, really cool album. Obviously, I love the majority of the stuff on here. Some, like, huge standouts in Steve Vai's discography that shows that even, like, his little pieces that, you know, he came back to finish are absolutely incredible. Like Mighty Messengers, Dark Matter, No Pocket, you know, Bop, just all kinds of really, really cool stuff on here. The Lost Chord. But, yeah, guys, I'd love to hear what you guys think about this stuff. And I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on that last track and see what you think about it. Because maybe, you know, some of you guys may like that thing out there. And that's cool if you guys maybe can appreciate it for what it is and have maybe listened to it a bunch and grown to love it or something. That's cool, but it's just not my thing. But the majority of these are, and, you know, maybe the majority of these are not your guys' thing, and that one is. Cool. You know, let's talk about it and see what's up and see what you guys think about maybe the evolution of Vai, and kind of how this transitional period of an album that is a total throwback, even though it came out in 2016. But with that being said, guys, next time we are going to be looking at the newest album. Finally, I can talk about it on here. 2022, this year, that came out this month, In Violet. So stay tuned for that. I'm super hyped to be talking about that thing. And then we will go on to the Steve Vai ranking video after that. And then we'll be talking about a whole new band and going on to a new chapter on this channel here. But anyways, guys, yeah, like, subscribe, comment, and let's keep this thing going. Bye.